procurement of COVID-19 vaccines. We have nothing but good intentions in conducting these public hearings because we both wanted to put an end to this pandemic as soon as possible. And as I have already stated, I believe that the executive department and we are both looking for what is for the greater good of the people. We, the members of the Senate, do not favor any particular brand of vaccines, but we favor a vaccine or any vaccine that is correctly priced, properly procured, and distributed. So hopefully, again, after today's hearing, all the issues will be resolved and no further question or doubt will crop up from the discussions that will transpire today. And I hope that through this, we will be able to convince the Filipino people to believe in vaccines and the vaccination in general. All right, so before we formally begin the discussions, may we again request the Secretary to acknowledge the presence of our invited resource persons for the record. And afterwards, the Secretary is directed to administer the oath to those resource persons who are joining us for the first time. And I would like to remind our resource persons that you are still under the same oath as before. Secretary Villariga, please.
The following resource persons are present in today's hearing. Secretary Carlito Calves Jr., the Vaccine SAR, together with Assistant Secretary Wilben Mayor and Director Pamela Padilla Salvan. From the Department of Health, physically present today, Secretary Francisco Duque, together with Undersecretary Maria Carolina Taño of the Procurement and Supply Chain Management Team and Director Maria Soledad Antonio of the Bureau of Health International Health Cooperation. From the Department of Finance, present is Undersecretary Mark Dennis Hoven, together with Assistant Secretary Maria Adita Tan and Attorney Jenaira May Halasco. From the Department of Foreign Affairs, present physically is Assistant Secretary Eric Gerardo Tamayo. From the Department of Science and Technology, present virtually is Assistant Secretary Leia Buendia and Dr. Jaime Montoya, who is physically present today. From the Department of Interior and Local Government, physically present today is Undersecretary Epimaco Densing III. Testing Czar and Deputy Chief Implementer of the IATF, Secretary Vincencio Dizon, is physically present today together with Attorney Joanna Capones. From the Food and Drug Administration, physically present today is Director General Lorando Domingo. From the Philippine Medical Association, PMA, virtually present, Dr. Benito Atienza, together with Dr. Lulu Bravo, virtually present, Chair of the PMA Ad Hoc Committee on Vaccination. From Zuelig Pharma Philippines, physically present today, Ms. Janet Hacosalem. From Pfizer Philippines, virtually present, Mr. Andreas Raidel. From Unilab Inc., virtually present, Attorney Dave Frederick Escalona. From the Cold Chain Association of the Philippines, virtually present, Mr. Anthony Dizon. From the Health Technology Assessment Council, present are Dr. Maria Carines Alejandria, Dr. Jose Enrico Lazaro, and Dr. Mediadora Saniel. From MKG Universal Drugs Trading Corporation, present today is Attorney Mark Christopher Tolentino, its President and CEO. May we request the resource persons who have not taken their oaths in previous hearings to please stand for the oath. And please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in this hearing? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before our
Mr. President,
the Minority Leader, Senator Dillon.
with your permission, Mr. President, may I make a short manifestation before we formally call on the resource persons present this morning?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I take note of your statement, Mr. President, that you had a meeting with Secretary Galvez, and more or less from the tenor of your manifestation, you are satisfied that the actuations of Secretary Galvez, particularly on the reluctance to make public the pricing of Sinovac, is in his is needed because of the prejudice it can cause to our country when the needed supply agreement will have to be signed. Mr. President, just for the record, we never for a moment doubted the integrity of Secretary Valdez. I do not know Secretary Valdez personally, but from all indications, he enjoys a high degree of respect among his peers. But we have raised issues on the pricing of Sinovac, principally because of the constitutional provision that the right of the people to information on matters of public concern shall be recognized. And this was interpreted in the case of Chavez versus Public State Authority and Amari, that the constitutional right to information includes official information on ongoing negotiations before a contract. Having said that, Mr. President, we note that AstraZeneca, Oxford AstraZeneca, has made public the cost of the vaccines purchased by the private sector at $5 per dose or $10 for 2 doses. Having said that, Mr. President, we defer to the judgment the judgment of the Senate President, not to make public through this open committee of the whole hearing the Sinovac prices at the time that the negotiations are still ongoing, and there is a commitment that since these are public funds, after signing of the supply agreement, we confirm that the position we hear and we reconfirm the position of the Senate President that he will be one with us in compelling the publication of the price after the supply agreement is signed with Sinovac for better public order. With that, we assume that this is the one that what I have stated for the record will transpire after the contract is signed, that the public will be informed of the terms of the supply agreement with Sinovac to remove all doubts and in order that the confidence of the people in our ability to address the pandemic will be enhanced, because I will repeat, only 47% of our people today would want to be vaccinated, and the issue of confidence is intricately related to the information that will be made available to the public. So that's my manifestation, Mr. President. I hope it goes on record for clarity. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, the Minority Leader, Your Honor, Senator Drilon. We take note of your manifestation. We place it on record. Thank you. Again, let us start with the discussions, but before that, we give the floor to Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. for an opening statement.
Your Honors, to our Senate President, Honorable Vicente Tito Soto, the members of the Senate of the Whole, my fellow cabinet members, good morning. Allow me to thank the leadership of the Senate for giving us the opportunity to provide greater clarity the national government's vaccine procurement efforts during our meeting on Wednesday, January 20. The meeting is instructed also by the President, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, to allow me to shed light on the pressing concerns raised during the Senate's Committee of the Whole hearings last week without violating the terms of the non-disclosure agreement that I and other members of the negotiating team had signed. My fellow negotiators and I are legally bound to honor these agreements. Our failure to comply with them would compromise the orders we have already made with not only one, but with all pharmaceutical companies that we have been negotiating. But we will provide, Your Honor, the information in due time, considering that negotiation is ongoing, and during this time, prices may go up and down. So we cannot reveal, and then also the companies are also negotiating with other countries, and our negotiation will also be compromised. This is the last thing we had like to happen, considering that we are limited supply and vaccines and the global market. There are also issues in Malaysia and now in Europe, wherein the prices have been revealed. And in revealing the prices, the volumes, the delivery of the volumes had been cancelled, and the negotiations had also been compromised. I sincerely appreciated the role of the Senate in helping us to explain to our countrymen the complicated process involved in negotiating and procuring vaccines for the country. Also to put clarity on our national vaccination roadmap, and we also thank and recognize the different recommendations to the gaps that they have seen in our roadmap. I would like also to put on record that we recognize and respect the oversight functions of the Senate, given that we all share the same objective, which is to ensure that the Filipino people will have access to safe, effective, and cost-efficient vaccines. Further, we would like to assure our highly esteemed senators and countrymen that all our negotiations are above board and will be free from corruption, and we will make our reports to you, Senate President, regularly, sir. Our negotiations with the vaccine manufacturers are based on the guidance given to us by the President, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, which are anchored on the principles of transparency and accountability. And he emphasized that he has no tolerance on corruption. Therefore, we and other members of the negotiating team are committed to carry out our duties without jeopardizing the agreements the government has reached with the vaccine makers and preserving the best interests of both parties. We promise to reveal the exact prices and other details of our negotiations in due time as we firm up our agreements. I would like to thank Senate President Vicente Soto III, as well as Senators Pampilo Lacson and Ronaldo De La Rosa, for giving me your time to clarify, and to also to Baguio Mayor Benjamin Magalong for facilitating the meeting. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all the members of the Senate for the patience, understanding, and most of all, support you have given to the vaccine SAR and to the members of the vaccine cluster. Rest assured that we will continue to perform our duties with respect for all concerned, in a spirit of integrity, accountability, fairness, and transparency. And also, I would like to make a public address that for whatever statement that I make, I'll make an apology if I have hurted your feelings. Mabuhay po ang Senado, mabuhay po ang Sambayang Pilipino. Maraming salamat po. And we will work together with the Senate, because we know that in this pandemic, we need to work together. And we really appreciated your help during the passing of the Bayanihan 2 and Bayanihan 2 and Bayanihan 3, Bayanihan 1. And we would like to recommend that in this hearing, we will reiterate to enact an indemnification law, considering it is very needed on our COVAX donation of 20% of the population, and also to ensure the readily available funds for the adverse effects of the vaccine. Number two is to allow also the LGUs to undertake advanced market payments, considering that the law prohibits us from making payments and no indicative date of delivery. And then number three, to declare COVID-19 vaccine as a strategic assets for the strict government control. And number four, and the declaration of the COVID-19 vaccines to be free from taxes and custom duty, so that its state of inefficacy will be preserved during its transport and handover. That's all, Your Honors, and maraming po salamat.
Thank you, Secretary Galvez.
Mr.
We
President,
do appreciate
just one
your
question.
humility and sincerity. Thank you very much. The minority leader, again, manifestation before we start.
Just one question. Just one question, Mr. President. Will Secretary Valdez committed to brief the Senate on the pricing of Sinovac after, and underscore the word after, the supply contract is signed, because these are public funds subject to audit in any case, so that therefore I have his commitment on record that after the supply agreement is signed, the Senate and the people will be informed of the terms of the supply agreement without the need for a committee of the whole.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, thank you. All right. So let's start. As usual, we will be allotting each member 10 minutes. The order of questioning, the usual practice, those physically present, then the officers, and then the order of log-in. Let's start now with Senator Panfilo Lacson.
Mr. President, just a
Okay.
point.
Yes, Senator Pangilinan.
Yes, an administrative matter. Is Secretary Duque attending the hearing today?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right, Senator Panfilo Lacson is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. As manifested earlier by the distinguished minority leader, and as Your Honor and I are aware, our debates mostly on the Senate floor and informally in the lounge, mostly centered on the confidentiality disclosure agreement, particularly on possible constitutional infirmities and pertinent legal issues involved, taking into consideration Article 3, Section 7 of the 1987 Constitution, which of course is qualified by the phrase, subject to such limitations as may be provided by law. Now, for the benefit of the public and those who requested me to ask this question, which law or jurisprudence, if any, exempts such right of the people to information on matters of public concern, access to official records and to documents and papers pertaining to official acts, transactions, or decisions, as well as to government research data as used for policy development? Of course, I called it from the provision of the Constitution. So anybody can answer, just for the benefit of the public, because ito yung pinaka most discussed na issue in the aspect of the CDA. Thank you.
Can we have Yusek Mark Hoven to answer?
Mr. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So basically, the jurisprudence on right to the public's information is stems from the case of Chavez versus PCGG, which was penned by then Justice Artemio Panginiban. So basically, it provides certain exceptions, including privileged information. Among the list of privileged information is trade secrets. So trade secrets are considered among privileged information which need not be disclosed. So there's a subsequent decision also by the court dated 2017, Airfield Corporation versus Penswell, where the court explicitly states that a price list is considered as a trade secret. So by virtue of this claim of privileged information, the government opts not to disclose the price of the vaccines at this particular point. But nonetheless, we still commit to provide a list of the prices once the definitive supply agreements are signed. Thank you.
And in due time, of course, at the proper time. And that's in compliance with the Of course, another constitutional provision on the COA, di ba? Yung, I think, of course, at the proper time. So that's clear enough. So that's settled, you know. And we will abide by the confidentiality disclosure agreement as agreed between two parties. My next question is kay Secretary Duque. Ito patanong din lang po ito, no? Yung tungkol sa vaccine passport or yung vaccination certificate, will it be a necessity for work, travel, commuting, dining out, church worship, marketing, and other basic activities?
The concept, Your Honor, is being studied by our technical working group in the IATF. But yung kasi pong konsepto ng passport, parang sinasabi ko, nabakunahan ka, pwede ka nang pumunta sa mga lugar, pwede ka nang makihalubilo, etc. Pero kasi sa ngayon po, lumalabas ang mga bakuna, wala pang sapat na ebidensya na nagpapakita na ito po ay talaga makakapigil ng transmission. It may prevent clinical disease, it may prevent severe disease and hospitalization, but insofar as the transmissibility of the virus po, yan ay hindi pa po malinaw. Yan lang po.
Salamat po. Tapos itong huli na lang, no, my third question, third and last. As far as COVID infections, saka yung mortality, yung deaths, where are we in the world rankings? Yung per capita, of course.
Ang atin po sa ngayon, we are number 32. Nag-rank po tayo number 32 in absolute COVID-19 infection. We are ranked about 125, but hindi ko po masyadong 125 based on our infection on a per million population. So we're probably about 4,005 to 4,800 per million population. The 40 countries that have already begun with their vaccination since December are 5 to 10 times more than our cases per million population. It's very important po na i-relate natin sa population. So sa atin pong death rate, kung di po ako nagkakamali, ay we are also about 113. But I will give you the final ranking kasi nagbabago po araw-araw. We are at about 84 per million population. Mga 84, 89 per million population po tayo. So mababa po tayo pagdating po sa ranking on a per million population.
Maraming salamat po. That's all for this representation, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lacson. Senator Risa Hontiveros, you're recognized. You have 10 minutes.
Salamat, Mr. President, at magandang umaga po sa lahat. At the outset, Mr. President, I'd like to make of record that I join with the manifestation of the minority leader at the opening of our hearing that the right to information, even during a negotiation stage, is guaranteed by the Constitution and precisely, specifically as ruled in Chavez versus PEA. And that the price, our assumption and the assurance given by Secretary Galvez that the price will be made public after the supply agreement is signed. For the record, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, at the outset of my interpellation. Mr. President, ang maganda po sa ating pagdinig sa COVID-19 vaccine program ng bansa ay nagkakaroon tayo ng pagkakataong masagot ang mga tanong ng ating mga kababayan ukol dito sa COVID-19 vaccines. Ang lagi kong pahayag ay ito, 3 bagay lamang. Gusto natin ng bakunang ligtas, bakunang epektibo, at bakunang darating sa oras. Kaya nakakalungkot po ang akusasyon ng Malacanang na kaya daw tayo mausisa ay dahil may pinapaboran daw tayong brand ng bakuna. I want to also put it on record, and it's fully reflected in our Senate Journal, na hinabahaba ng mga hearing dito sa Senado tungkol sa vaccines. Wala ni isang beses na ako o kahit sinong senador ay may kinilingan na kahit anong brand. Kaya patuloy ako magtatanong tungkol sa mga bakuna na hindi pa kumpleto ang datos. Nasa pangatlong hearing na tayo at maraming natitirang tanong. Ang tanong ng mga senador ay tanong din ng taong bayan. Ano ang tunay na efficacy rate ng mga ito? Magkano nga ba ito? Nasaan na ang kumpletong datos? Para magkaroon ng accountability, kailangan sagutin ang mga ito. Hindi namin kailangan na maging medrep ang alinmang bahagi ng gobyerno. We just need to trust that you will guard the health of Filipinos by bringing only the best and the safest vaccines here. Ni isang sentimo ay hindi dapat mapunta sa kahit anong bakuna na hindi napatunayang ligtas. Bilyon-bilyon ang gagastusin natin dito, kaya dapat makasulit ang mga Pilipino. To my first question, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, on Mikey Arroyo and Sinopharm. Meron po akong slide dito, Mr. President. Last hearing, I asked the FDA if they were able to find out who was the Juan Miguel Arroyo of LTA Inc., who that was, who sent them an empty email with attachments of Sinopharm. The FDA has since confirmed, Mr. President, that the email from Juan Miguel Arroyo of LTA Inc. is from incumbent Representative Mikey Arroyo dito po sa FDA letter. So could I please ask the FDA, to your knowledge, Director General Domingo, is LTA Inc. going to be one of the distributors of Sinopharm?
Mr. President, Madam Senator, so this one po was on November 10, and Congressman Mike Arroyo said he wanted to share some information on a vaccine that might be useful to the FDA, and I suggested to email and also to the VEP kasi po yung vaccine expert panel ang first na tumitingin ng mga bakuna.
Opo.
And he did send the email to the VEP. Pagkatapos po, sumagot yata yung VEP nang nagtatanong kung ano nga po yung intention. And there was no further communication after that.
So in the 2 months po mula nung sulat na ito ng November 10, hindi nyo pa po alam, hindi nyo pa po masabi sa amin dito sa Senado kung magiging distributor ng Sinopharm ang LTA Inc.
Wala naman pong indication at wala pa pong nag-a-apply ng EUA for Sinopharm sa FDA.
I understand, Mr. President, that indeed, kahit dito po sa matrix natin, hindi pa po nag-a-apply ng EUA ang Sinopharm. In any case po, Director General Domingo, Mr. President, would you agree with me that local distributors of a COVID vaccine or any company that will be involved in the vaccine distribution process should be thoroughly vetted?
Madam Senator, Mr. President, primary requirement is for the company to have a license to operate as a pharmaceutical importer and distributor. So pag ganun po, chinecheck po natin yung kumpanya, including po inspections ng kanilang office before we grant that. So yun po talaga yung primary requirement for an EUA application. So only licensed companies can apply for an EUA or the government.
So kung sakali pong ang LTA Inc. ay mag-a-apply na maging distributor ng Sinopharm, kailangan dumaan din sila sa ganitong mga primary requirements tulad ng magkakaroon or mayroon silang license to operate.
Yes, ma'am. Lahat po ng kumpanya na gusto pong mag-distribute, mag-import ng gamot at bakuna sa Pilipinas, kailangan pong kumuha ng license to operate sa FDA.
Mr. President, siguro kahit itong paunang pagpaparamdam ng LTA Inc. kaugnay ng Sinopharm ay nakababahala ng konti because of LTA's checkered track record. I remember po, Mr. President, na LTA, helmed by the former First Gentleman, ay nasa sentro ng tinatawag na chopper scam, subject of a pending case before the Sandigan Bayan. But lastly, on this issue, Mr. President, Congress has oversight functions on the vaccine rollout, hindi po ba, Director General Domingo?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, last week po nagkaroon din ng briefing at saka hearing po sa Kongreso on the vaccine program.
Opo, and in fact, that is why we are having this committee of the whole hearing. Doesn't it appear unseemly that a company associated with a sitting legislator, katulad lang po namin, may have or may come to have financial interests in a particular vaccine brand? Dahil bagamat 2 buwan hindi na nagparamdam ulit, unang nag-email po sa inyo na may attachments tungkol sa Sinopharm.
Well, Madam Chair, I did not find it very unusual no, when when he offered information on a vaccine, madalas naman po na nakakatanggap ako ng mga inquiry sa mga congressman, sa mga mayor, governor, about certain products and or certain facilities. So I did not find it unusual actually.
Medyo iba yung impression natin, Director Domingo, sa ganyang klaseng mga sitwasyon. But last follow-up question po about this issue. Just for the record, has LPA Inc. applied for a license to operate as a pharma importer?
Madam Senator, no.
Right. Thank you, Director General. Moving on to my next issue, Mr. President, on China's so-called vaccine diplomacy. When the DFA announced that China promised to donate 500,000 free vaccine shots to the Philippines, the FDA initially said that no FDA approval was needed to use these. It was only after we senators expressed alarm that the FDA corrected their statement. And that was really a very welcome correction. Kung hindi nag-react mga senador, baka nabigyan pa ang kalahating milyong vaccine shots ng free pass papasok ng bansa. Why did we seem overeager at that point to accept this gift that we were even willing to abdicate or sacrifice our safety nets? Director General, if you would care to.
Yeah, Madam Senator, I think I was asked po kasi kung pwede bang tumanggap ang DOH ng unregistered products. Pag po kasi emergency, meron pong administrative order ang DOH na pwede silang tumanggap ng produkto na unregistered. In fact, nung pong panambayanihan to, automatic po yun eh. Basta registered sa home country, automatic approval dapat dito sa Pilipinas. Pero nag-expire na yon. So ang ginagawa po, doon sa AO na luma, pag po ang isang gamot, pagkain, or bakuna, unregistered, susulat po sa DOH, and then DOH, if they agree, they say, yes, we will accept the donation. Pagkatapos po yung DOH, siya po ang magre-register ng produkto sa FDA. So maaari po niyang tanggapin kahit unregistered, pero kukuha po siya ng registration sa FDA before po gamitin.
Sana po siguro, Director General, nung unan yung sinagot yung tanong na iyon, pinoint out nyo po yung AO at yung iba pang references na sinasabi nyo sa amin yun. Kung ganun po kasi nyo kinonteksto, hindi po kami na-alarma mga senador, hindi rin natakot yung mga Pilipino, kasama na yung mga magulang na hindi sanay na may anumang vaccine na gagamitin dito na wala munang inyong seal of approval. Tsaka kasi talaga yung alaala ko nung una sinabi nyo pwedeng tanggapin at gamitin. In any case po, Mr. President, Director General, mabuti nga po at kinorek nyo na yung unang statement na iyon at pwede ang mamamayan magkaroon ng kumpiyansa na sisiguruhin ng FDA na alinmang mga vaccines na gagamitin dito ay kailangan talagang dumaan muna sa inyong pag-aaproba. Sabi ko nga, wag nyo pong i-abdicate yung inyong mandate dahil napaka-importante, fully exercise it po. Meron bang kapalit ang mga bakunang ito? Kasi naalala ko po nung nakaraang hearing, may sinabing baka dahil sa diplomacy, no? Yung mga circumstances surrounding this giving and receiving of a gift. Kaya ako natanong ngayon umaga yung vaccine diplomacy. So, sa diplomasya, may kapalit ba yung mga bakunang ito sa pagkaalam nyo, Director General?
Wala naman pong pwede kasing maging conditions, no? Noon pong siguro po a few months ago, ma'am, may mga nagtatanong actually na companies for gamot at saka possible vaccines for ito nga pong COVID-19. Nagtatanong sila kung mag-donate ba sila pagkatapos hiningan ng approval ng DOH, tas na-approve, ibig sabihin pwede na silang pumasok sa approve. So kindaro ko sa kanila, hindi po. Halimbawa, nag-donate kayo ng 50,000 doses, no? Tapos pinahiningan po ito ng registration ng FDA, ng DOH, tas dinran po ng authorization ng FDA. Ang binibigay po naming authorization for those 50,000 doses lamang, not for the product in general. So hindi pa rin po nila pwedeng gamitin ang authorization from FDA na nasa DOH. Lagi po yun, per particular batch, kung ilang volume, yun lang po ang pinapayagan. So natigil na po yun Pero nung umpisa nga po, may mga akala po nila po pwede yun.
Wala naman pong problema, Mr. President, Director General, kung may authorization. Kaya nga lang kami na-alarma dahil yung unang statement ng FDA ay pwedeng gamitin kahit hindi pa authorized ng FDA. At hindi lang ito 50,000, 10 times that magnitude. So muli po, mabuti na kinorek nyo yung ganong posisyon. Dahil yung corrected position nyo, yun po sa tingin ko ang tamang posisyon ng FDA kaugnay ng vaccines, lalo na po sa gitna nitong pandemya. At sa totoo lang po kasi, Mr. President, Director General, mukhang mababa ang kumpiyansa ng publiko ukol sa mga bakuna na manggagaling sa China kahit na ito ang binibida ng Malacanang. Di rin nakakatulong yung pagtatakip at kawalan ng transparency ukol sa pagbili ng mga bakuna na iyan in whatever fashion. Despite yung appreciation ko for yung pagkaklaro na nangyari sa simula nitong hearing tungkol sa transparency on the prices of the vaccines. Dahil may pagtatakip, may kawalan ng transparency in some aspects, suspecha tuloy ng marami baka ginagamit ng China ang so-called vaccine diplomacy para mapilit ang ibang mga bansa na sumunod sa gusto nito. Siguro balik po ako kay Sec Galvez dahil isang strategic question din. Hindi ba nakaaapekto, Sec, Mr. President, ang pagbili natin ng Chinese vaccine sa ating strategic goals at foreign policy objectives? Speaking of diplomacy.
Your Honor, Mr. President. Ano, sinabi na po namin na last hearing that we are making some sort of portfolio of vaccine, including the different platforms. As we have said earlier, we have 5 platforms of the vaccine: the inactivated, the Sa Rpn, the viral vector, mRNA, and also the DNA. Based on this series of presentation to us by the vaccine expert panel, the inactivated virus platform is the safest among all vaccines because it's been being used more than 200 years ago. And considering that the vaccine expert panel and the government is looking for the safe and effective vaccine, we consider those vaccines with the same platform. And one of them are the Chinese. Some of them are the Chinese vaccine. So we consider that, considering that this is the most we call it the safest among the vaccine platform. And also we consulted also our expert abroad. We have also consultants abroad, and they said that among the 3 Chinese vaccine, Sinovac its EUA is for elderly and vulnerable people. CanSino, the EUA of CanSino is for its soldiers and military, and Sinopharm is for general use. With this, we also conducted a research that, and they submitted to me the DEP submitted to me the list in accordance to ranking, and they ranked Sinovac above Sinopharm and Casino. So that's the truth of that selection process that we have undertaken with the DEP. So this is not it's not basically biased on a certain platform or certain countries, but we look at the different portfolio, which will become the candidate for the major criteria that we have undertaken, including the paramount criteria of safety, efficacy, and cost effectiveness.
We actually share those criteria, Mr. President, Sec. So kung tama yung sinasabi ng ating independent at pinagkakatiwalaang vaccine expert panel na may parang built-in advantage yung ilang sa mga vaccines na ito, including the China-made vaccines na sila ang inactivated virus platform, then they should use that built-in advantage in na-erase ang vaccine confidence